Here's Brattleboro's latest Town Matters podcast. This podcast is a quick update on what's happening in Brattleboro town government. I'm your host, Town Manager John Potter, broadcasting from the BCTV studios in Brattleboro, Vermont. Today we're going to look back at what happened at the May 21st Brattleboro Select Board meeting, and then I'll give you a heads up on the agenda for the upcoming meetings on Tuesday, June 4th, and for the annual Select Board retreat, which will now be on Thursday, June 13th. At the board's May 21st meeting, there was no consent agenda, so the first item of old business was to consider changes to the Brattleboro Code of Ordinances, Chapter 1.5 on alcoholic beverages, Sections 2 and 17. A motion was made and passed 5-0 to adopt amendments to those ordinances. The next item was the fiscal year 25 utility fund budget. This budget was presented first at the May 7th meeting, where the approved 1% rate increase showed a deficit in the budget. There was discussion at that meeting, and on May 21st, staff brought back a budget with a 5% rate increase. Select Board noted that even with a 5% increase, there would still be a deficit of $241,000, but staff indicated that that was able to be covered by cash reserves. The board made a motion to approve the FY25 utility fund budget, including a capital plan, and that was passed 5-0. Next, the Select Board announced committee vacancies for town board and committee vacancies that are upcoming and should be filled by July 1st. The next item on May 21st was a first reading of potential changes to the water and sewer rate ordinances, Chapter 18. At its previous meeting and for the utility budget item, the board considered the possibility of a 5% rate increase. One item that was discussed was the possibility of a rate study to look out at the next 5 years starting next year. Next was a first reading of an ordinance change to Chapter 8, Article 6 of the Brattleboro Code related to vacant buildings. Planning Director Sue Fillion and Planning Technician Steve Hayes joined the meeting and explained a draft ordinance. This would address problems around abandoned and vacant properties. There was discussion by the board on permit fees, on the process for complaints and enforcement, and on the definition of a vacant building. As this was the first reading, a second reading will be at an upcoming meeting, and staff will be bringing back potential changes to that draft of the ordinance. For the next item, Planning Director Sue Fillion stayed in the meeting and discussed the suitability of town properties for housing development. And Director Fillion had examined 23 town-owned sites around Brattleboro and presented information about each of those and their likelihood or suitability for a housing development. There was discussion on developing properties, especially parking lots and related zoning. For next steps, Director Fillion noted that the town will recommend 2 or 3 sites to do pre-development work on. There was some discussion around those possible sites. And that was the meeting for May 21st. The next Select Board meeting is a regular meeting scheduled for Tuesday, June 4th. The preliminary agenda is the following. There is a consent agenda with 6 items on it. A bid award for work to be done on the Western Ave sidewalks. A loader purchase for the Department of Public Works, also an air compressor purchase for DPW, and a Bobcat to be also purchased for the DPW. There is an item for a consideration of a second-class liquor license for the Super 8. And finally, the annual dog warrant is on the consent agenda. Under old business, the board will take up the utility rate ordinance change, for which there was a first reading at the May 21st meeting. This will be the second reading and a possible adoption of that 5% increase. Under new business, the board will hear from staff on a proposed fiscal year 25 parking fund budget. Then they will consider a request from the Brattleboro Area Affordable Housing Corporation for a use of the revolving loan fund. And finally, on new business for June 4th is a possible grant application for a bike path on the Brattleboro Common. The Select Board had originally scheduled their annual retreat for May 17th and 18th, but that meeting was rescheduled to Thursday, June 13th from noon to 8 p.m. This will be held at the Winston Prouty Center's Holton Hall on the 4th floor at 209 Austin Drive. The meeting will start on Thursday, June 13th at 12 p.m. There will be an initial welcome, purpose, and logistics for the meeting discussed, then a brief plan action review of the town plan and other plans that guide the work of staff. Next, the board will engage in conversations with department heads from all of the town departments, where each will talk about the values that they lead their teams with, efficiencies, savings, and reductions of service, possibly for FY26. And then they will also talk about priorities for this year and for the FY26 budget. The next item on the retreat agenda will be a review of Select Board 2023 through 2025 priorities from last year, including reviewing progress and whether any of those might continue. Then the board will have a good long discussion on the Select Board's 2024 to 2026 priorities for this upcoming year. Each Select Board member will discuss their one big idea and their other please consider ideas. From that list, the board will try to build a consensus of 3 to 5 Select Board priorities for the year. They will refine expectations on that, have a discussion about any 2025 state legislative priorities they may see upcoming, as well as any other process improvements. There will be a public participation item at 7:45 p.m. towards the end of the meeting. And that is the Select Board retreat on June 13th. Couple of announcements today. This June, the town will be hosting public forums for 2 different projects. Join staff on Thursday, June 20th from 6 to 7:30 p.m. at Fuller Park, also known as the Estyville Commons, to discuss the future of the bandstand there. Share your thoughts on how the town should move forward, whether it's refurbishing the bandstand or removing it. If you plan on attending, please bring a lawn chair. Separately, consultants working for the town have drafted early conceptual drawings of the pool and aquatics facility, and Recon Parks wants to hear your feedback. Drop by the pool at Living Memorial Park between 3:30 and 6:30 p.m. on June 25th to discuss the drawings, which you can view on the town's website, brattleboro.gov. The rain date for this event is June 26th, also from 3:30 to 6:30 p.m. If you're unable to attend either event, please send your thoughts by email at recreation@brattleboro.gov. The pool will be opening for the season, by the way, on June 15th. For details about the schedule, swim lessons, and rates and fees, please visit brattleboro.gov/pool. So that's what's happening in Brattleboro Town Government with the Select Board. Please reach out at townmatters@brattleboro.gov if you have any feedback for us. There's lots of additional information on the website, brattleboro.gov, about what's discussed at the Select Board meetings, so please check that out for agendas, reports, and backup materials. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you around town, Brattleboro.